you. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Groton Mayor and Council meeting for Monday, October 17th, 2022. Roll call. Clerk, please call the roll.
President R. Mayor Hedrick, Deputy Mayor Depot, Councilor Norris, Councilor Sheffield, excused Councilor McCabe, and Councilor Piazza.
Okay. We stand to salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll go to recognitions, awards, and memorials. Council. Okay, I would like to take a moment of silence for the Bristol police officers who lost their lives on duty this week, Sergeant DeMonte and Officer Hamsey. So please take a moment to think about them and their families. Okay, moving on. Before we get into receipt of citizens' petitions, the City of Groton has transitioned to in-person meetings, including citizens' petitions. In order to have a quorum tonight, I created a Zoom link so that Councilor Carter could attend, and as a result, I shared the Zoom link with the individual who requested the Zoom link tonight so that she could participate in citizens' petitions. My staff and I will evaluate Zoom meetings for the future. Receipt of citizens' petitions, comments. Receipt of citizens' petitions is the portion of the council meeting where the council welcomes comments from citizens. To address the council, please sign a sheet on the table at the front of the meeting room. When you're recognized, please approach the podium. Clearly state your name and address. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit emailed or written comments. Presentations should be related to the matters pertinent to the City of Groton. City councilors will only ask questions in order to clarify the speaker's presentation and can respond during the response to citizens' petitions portion of the meeting. Clerk, do we have anyone signed up for citizens' petition?
Yes, first up we have Michael Boucher.
Good evening, Council. Thanks for following the Town of Groton's lead and holding related in default of the tax incentive agreement, and for following Town Councilor Portia's amendment for a 30-day cure period. Obviously, this will be met with a unanimous approval, as it should be, because the Branford Manor residents have waited for a long, long time for this moment, a time for real action by the City Council. Related has never at any time met the terms of the tax incentive agreement since it was signed back in 2017. Health and safety code violations have been numerous throughout the $18.5 million renovation, which still has not been completed, but yet Related will collect over $500,000 this year alone because no one stepped up to enforce this legally binding agreement between Related and the town and the City of Groton. This problem has been expressed by the city as not knowing what Related is planning to do. It has been years, and if the city can't figure it out, they should not be signing agreements and giving away money while city residents suffer. No one should have to live with health and safety violations, and no one, especially families, should face the continual threat of being homeless. I want to know what the city government is planning to do. The mold conditions are sickening. Building 118 is especially horrendous, and its apartment 155 notorious. Why hasn't the state housing prosecutor or the city's attorney office taken action as suggested by the city building and zoning officer back in November of 2018? After receiving, he states, lots of complaints about Branford Manor and mold issues, and admitting this is now consuming the department's time on something we may not be able to control. Apparently still not able to control. Why hasn't the city provided the rental housing code complaint in Spanish? Why hasn't the city provided Ordinance 97, the rental housing code, in Spanish? Seriously, why weren't these health and safety issues addressed years ago? How can you have mold year after year after year in the same building? How can you have mold year after year after year in the same apartment? Bathtub liners filled with trapped dirty water, bathroom vents unable to move enough air, broken basement windows simply filled in with spray foam, unsafe floors, stairs, stair rails, repairs completed by tenants who are tired of waiting, and the outrageous loss of basements and their belongings that were in the basements. Rats and mice roam freely while water that looks like coffee pours out of the faucets. How long would any one of you last under these conditions? A day, maybe two? Or would you simply run away after opening the door? The City Council must do much more to protect the tenants of Branford Manor. The city needs a plan. Thank you, and thank you especially, residents of Branford. I really appreciate you guys being out here. Rock the boat.
Who's next?
Well, we have Marilyn Monagas.
Monagas.
Thank you for allowing us to speak today. I can only echo everything Michael so eloquently said as the truth. They've asked all of the hotel residents that were displaced into hotels to return. Upon returning, our water was brown. Mold issues are still there. Ventilation issues have not been repaired. They said repairs have happened. They're still doing both neighbor sides, corresponding the walls to which I do. So when they do the repair work, you can smell all of that dust in your unit. I live at 242 Branford. We have substantial mold issues, substantial issues with the water, animal and critter issues, raccoons the size of dogs in our dumpsters. It's unhealthy, and I can only, like I said, mimic everything Michael said, that it's just unsafe. We've given them time, we've given them patience, we've given them complaints, we've called Ledgelight, we've called everyone, and we really need your support in solving these issues. Thank you.
We have Rick Declarami.
Hello, how are you? I had no plans to say anything tonight, but I had a friend of mine called me up this evening and told me that she refused to come to any of these meetings now because she's been hearing some of these people that's been coming to these meetings been getting eviction notices. And she also sent me a photo of a rat that's about the size of a cat. If you'd like to see it, I have a picture of it. My lawyers had made arrangements with Branford Manor to come into my apartment to fix some stuff that need to be done. Oh, that's a joke. It's been 3 weeks. And that's all I've got to say.
Valerie Levy.
Hello, my name is Valerie Levy. I live at 159 Mather Avenue in Groton with my daughter. We have been living in the hotel since September 14th. I posted on Facebook that my daughter is not feeling well, and she was home from preschool today. And feeling well or not feeling well, this meeting is rather late. Most meetings are. And I was hoping to navigate attending via Zoom. I was told how to navigate that. I was initially denied, but packing her into the car this evening is when I went back onto Facebook to find where the meeting was and the address to get here is when I found out it was later granted, and I learned that a little too late. But I need people to understand that anybody and everybody comes from any and all different backgrounds and has multiple different capabilities. All people are different. It would take me a rather long time to write up something that would be read for 5 minutes than to just attend either in person or by Zoom. And so it's a great hardship. And plus, I'm not the most electronically savvy person. And so just I'm trying to learn things, and so we just ended up in person. But when it comes to Brantford, people are still being retaliated against. Ever since Related bought the property, according to the HUD reports, everything's going backwards. It's not staying the same. It's not being maintained the same that it was when they first bought it, and it's not getting better. And there is a very large paper trail that just continuously is unfolding over and over. It just people have been trying to speak out for a very long time. A lot of people have lost their ability to not only rent through HUD, but rent overall, because if they attempted to speak out, they were evicted and nobody was willing to listen to them. I mean, my daughter and I have only lived here 10 months, and I'm scared to stay in Groton. I'm scared that it's not a safe place, and not because of my neighbors and not because of the streets, but because of how Brantford has been treated. And if we stay in the area, are we going to be met with the same treatment? Please excuse me. My daughter's sound machine broke, and I went to the apartment to try to find out backup. And, well, that's a side effect of trying to go into the apartment. But people are still being retaliated against. I mean, excuse me, it's just really, really, really scary. I mean, thank you for... Please excuse me. Thank you for starting to take the step in the right direction along with the town. But I wish I could keep my thoughts together better, but my daughter keeps me awake at night. And so, and when people originally met at The Rock, when I was not able to meet that first meeting, people were giving notices to quit vacancy, and it sounds like that has not stopped. And so I know I didn't speak well tonight. I know it sucks, but I'm trying. I'm doing the best that I can. And something that has been said before is that this is the only HUD housing in Groton. And there was an email that I sent out previously, and I hope that that understanding got corrected. Something else that has been said is that if people are evicted, then everybody's homeless. I hope to correct that with a future email that will hopefully be coming soon. I'm just waiting for some feedback. But that's not accurate as well. And I hope later that either for the city or for the town that maybe HUD can come talk at one of these meetings. I would really like to see that and have some records set straight on not only that, but on multiple other things. So thank you.
That's all that signed up as of right now.
Is there anyone else that signed up? Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Who signed? Okay, go ahead, Edward, and read the one that you have. Sign up.
We did receive communication Deputy Mayor Depot sent over. I'll read it quickly into the record. Good evening, my name is Christian Santos, and I live in apartment 268 Branford Ave, building 44. I am one of the families that continue to be out of my home now well over 3 months. To say I have been living in a nightmare would be an understatement. I have had to uproot my life along with my children, moving from hotel to hotel. I live with the fear every day of whether this is the day I'm going to be homeless, because there has not been any progress or remediating my home, and I'm being told that a multi-billionaire is running out of money to continue paying for my hotel. My teen has been depressed because she has been away from the friends, neighbors who have become family to her. Branford has stuck us all the way out in New London. Anyone who knows my daughter knows she is a bubbly, outgoing person, and these past few months she has lost all drive to do anything. My 3-year-old son, who is autistic, has had night terrors, loss of appetite, and has resorted to aggressive behaviors because he doesn't know how to communicate the frustration he is feeling. My 2-year-old asks me every day, when does he get to go home, that he misses the toys and his bed. Him too has had night terrors where I have to console him in the middle of the night because he wakes up screaming hysterically. I am now 3 months pregnant, and I can't even walk into my apartment because any time I do, I am sick for days with congestion so bad I literally can't breathe. I am so disgusted with Branford's complete disregard for humankind. They received numerous housing violations with my apartment alone and have done nothing to fix the problems. They sent someone out to start patching up the chipping paint in my apartment almost 2 months ago, but they have not painted any of my apartment and have had the time with permission to do so. They supposedly started remediation in my basement a week ago. It's been days since the contractors have been in my home. They have only removed a small portion of sheetrock, but somehow have assured me that they would be done in time and I could be back in my home by Tuesday, 10/18/22. The reality is they are nowhere close to being done. This is unacceptable. They need to be held accountable. They have known about all these problems, but because they aren't physically living in these conditions, it's not any of the urgency to them. Please do not allow them to continue abating paying taxes when they know families have been suffering and someone lost their life due to their negligence. Don't let my life be next, or my children's. This may be read during the minutes if you would feel it's appropriate. Thank you, Christine Santos. Next, we have Ian Thomas.
Ian Thomas, 24 Jefferson Drive. To start, I just want to thank the city for scheduling a public hearing next week, 24th, to discuss the impending change in Election Day from May to November in the city. State law is requiring municipalities to change unless a 3/4 majority votes not to. 3/4 majority of the legislature, which is the city council. So I look forward to that public hearing, and I'm encouraging many city residents to come out and speak to their concerns on that, and I'll be here as well. The main point for my comments tonight have to do with Branford Manor and the issue on the agenda for a possible default. I encourage you all to vote for default, as I have for many months now, coming to these meetings. The reasons are numerous and have been articulated already at length in great detail. Thank you, Val, in particular, for making it out tonight. I know it was a particular hardship. I struggle with the words to adequately express my frustration with what's been going on here. As Mr. Boucher pointed out, there's been a history of problems with Branford Manor. And yes, while we all know it's gone on for decades there, to some extent or another, what was different, it was that this agreement was signed 5 years ago. There was some very frank discussions in meetings with both the town council and the city council, where people, both on the related side and on the municipality side, openly admitted, acknowledging the concerns about not just the mold and the moisture, but also construction, overall management, and the sense of hostility between management and tenants. So it's been a known factor, and numerous times the members of Related's team professed that they had this under control and they had a plan, and they were very grateful for the tax abatement deal in order to empower them to execute the plan. And the plan has not been executed at all properly. Like, they've done some things, yes, the community center got built, but the services never came in, and the regular maintenance never occurred, and the systemic moisture issues were never addressed when it was a known factor 5 years ago. That would have been the time to root out the buildings down to their studs and assess the foundations as well, maybe insert a vapor barrier if needed. I mean, there's lots of extreme construction methods that could be done and should have been done 5 years ago, and now, hopefully that may be on the table if, because we're in this gray area now of like where to go. Hopefully you guys vote for default. Like, that's the first step. That is not the cure. That is a step towards the cure. And there's many layers beyond that it's going to take some tenacity and resilience to dive into. And I encourage you to be as assertive and aggressive as possible when it comes to that time. Quick side note about the Zoom. I know there was some confusion about it earlier tonight. I know that earlier this summer I did request that Zoom was made available for some people, and it happened. And I was very disappointed to hear that it was denied initially tonight. Honestly, I just think it should be a thing that you guys offer as a regular part of the meeting. Anytime there's public comment, offer a Zoom link. The town does it. It's not that complicated. They have a requirement that you just email by 4 p.m. the city clerk, and they have a Zoom account ready to rise up and engage and offer to people. So, like, maybe consult with somebody on the town side to get some advice on how that works, because they've been doing it for months. Don't need a law to tell you what the right thing to do is. Thank you.
Portia Borderline.
Thank you. Portia Bordelon, 24 Jefferson Drive. I too share the frustration with the lack of transparency, accountability, and accessibility. That's the most important thing in government. And tonight, to hear there was no posting, no nothing stating that people could not participate via Zoom prior to. That should be a 24-hour notice. Or a vote that you guys decide to take it away. Not the last minute when someone reaches out around 12 or 1 o'clock, and then at 4 o'clock, they're told that they can't. So I was not aware of that, and I live in the city, and we talk about how the city is a driving force and separate from the town. Will be that driving force. Make sure that you're holding yourself to that standard, to be the standard that you claim to be. Portia Bordelon, as I stated, I also am a Groton Town Councilor. My concern tonight here again is Branford Manor. I've come before you guys several occasions. I hope tonight's the night that you guys decide to act in default. As Mr. Boucher has stated, looking back at all the documents that were so nicely given to us to review on our own down in that basement in piles, if you go down there, it's all there. 2017, buildings that people are here complaining about were living there in those same apartments. How come we have not called the criminal prosecutor for the housing authority at the state level at this point yet? Again, as the city, you want to be a separate, strong town. Act on it. Be the leader on it. Take the initiative to put other pressures on the living conditions of Branford Manor. I don't have jurisdiction as a city, as a town councilor, only the contract for default. You guys have the building inspector, you have the driving force. I have called the Attorney General. He stated there's been no complaints from the city side as of yet. Why? When you go back and look at the documents, you have all the evidence right there. How come HUD's evaluation since the 5-year repair has gone down by almost 10 points? Why? Who signed off on all of this? If you look at everything, it doesn't add up. I am concerned for the welfare and well-being of the residents. I've been down there several days. They're ripping out drywall through the kitchens of the houses in their eating spaces. Nothing's tarped off or covered. The attorney has to get involved and say that, this is not proper, covering things up. I've been criticized by the mayor of this here body by saying I overstepped my boundaries. I saw his post that he posted in the forum. If you consider me standing up and standing with the folks of Brantford and going to their house and enduring the mold, sometimes it's embarrassing when I have to step out myself because I can't breathe. If that's overstepping my boundaries, then I'll keep overstepping until it's fixed. You guys have the jurisdiction and the time. You could say that you do not have the manpower and you need help from the state. It should be an all call. People down here are suffering. I encourage that you guys make an act. You haven't even had them before the council yet. Related, nobody. HUD, town council, we invite everybody around the table. You guys haven't even made it an official agenda item to bring them around to discuss your concerns. So we have to do something. What are we going to do? It was said here at this very meeting that someone was concerned about the money of what it would be for the attorneys to get involved. How do you put a price tag on life? We've known about this for greater than 5 years. The documents are all over here with tons of names of people that are sitting up there. Let's act. Let's do something. And it's not just the default. What are you guys going to do after the default? What is your building inspector going to do? What is the city of Groton going to do to help these families beyond that? Because after the default, there's other things that they're not providing. Social services are supposed to be infiltrating in there. I know that we hand out food out front with United, the food bank, but the deplorable conditions inside is what needs help. I also, too, am concerned about the vote moving from, I encourage that people come out and speak, moving it from May to November helps us to elect good candidates for elections. And I think it's important when it's all lined up. So everyone knows
Yeah,
November is election day. And so cities should not have elections in May where folks plan to vote in November. They should be able to vote once. Again, I stand with the residents of Brantford Manor. I encourage this council, this body, to also consider looking at ways to move beyond just causing this default. That's a small piece, right? Again, you are the city. You are the driver. We're concerned about moving an election because we're worried about the merge of the city and the town. Well, then I encourage you to take that energy and put it towards the housing in your jurisdiction in the city and help the residents of Brantford Manor. Thank you.
That's all.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak under citizens' petitions? Okay. Then we will move on. To respond to citizens' petitions comments, again, this is a counselor's response. It is not interactive. It is not meant to get into a dialogue back and forth, not to start a meeting, as it has not been noticed. It is clearly your comments. Are there any comments? Deputy Mayor Depot.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, there's a lot of things, so I'm going to try to not forget them. So first, I do want to address the issue with Zoom. I agree that there should be availability of Zoom. Making sure that we're following rules of notice is important. And I know during COVID, we had the link all the time at the top of the agenda because it was always available because we were using Zoom. It is something to look into. My main concern is, can I ask the clerk a clarifying question?
Sure.
What time do you come in on Monday mornings?
0800.
So if you have to set up the Zoom, it probably adds 30 to 45 minutes to your evening that you now have to take away from your break in between work and the meeting, right?
Yeah, say 10, 15 minutes to set up.
So I just want to make sure that the clerk is able to prepare for that because it is additional and it's not something that we get requested a lot. And I know the town has the rule where you email by 4 o'clock. I think some kind of rule like that would be good. That way the clerk can prepare before he leaves for the day, what time he needs to come back. I think I am always concerned with treating employees fairly, and I think that we can do both things at the same time. We can make sure that we're giving as much access as possible and take care of our employees. So that's my concerns about that. But I am interested to see, I know we don't get requests very often for public comment over Zoom, but I would like to see us develop some sort of procedure of how we do it, whether it's 4 hours notice or 12 hours notice or whatever the number is. A couple of people, I think all the rest of it is about Brantford. A couple of people mentioned that Brantford is still retaliating or mentioned the notices to quit. I just want to make sure and clarify that people know that retaliation is illegal, and if you think you are being retaliated against by your landlord, you should call the building department and make a complaint, because again, that is illegal. Even if you suspect it, you can call and they will look into it for you. They'll verify that whatever reason the landlord has given is accurate. So that's something that you can do. I know in terms of the notices to quit, in the very beginning, when the mayor and I got involved, there was an intent for Brantford they had already issued several notices to quit that included many people who were at that initial meeting. And at the mayor's urging, they paused all of those. I think that was the very first meeting we had with them where they said they would do that. So they did it then. If there is any, like I said, if there's thought that they are retaliating against you, please contact the building department and put a complaint in, because that is obviously a huge concern of ours and has been since the very beginning. So let's see, what was the other thing? You know, that's it. I'm all set.
Councilor Norris?
Just like to say thank you to everyone that came out and voiced their opinion this evening. I will say, if we are here seeking engagement and to make things as simple as possible to give their opinions on the affairs of the city, that allowing people to participate in Zoom just makes common sense. I'm sure that if work schedule is a problem, that somehow that can be arranged with time elsewhere throughout the week to make that happen. So just thank you. And, you know, engagement is about the same reason, whatever reasons we're using for engagement with voting, and people voting may be May or November, we should be looking for the same thing with people giving their opinions on our council meetings. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Carter?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you guys. So, I commend everybody who came forward and spoke. It takes a lot of courage to do that, especially in these times. I commend people who made the time to come. However, I feel that I need to speak for myself, and I believe for the council. And I just want to make it clear that from the very beginning of all of this with Brantford Manor, our best interest was the end game of the residents and the people of Brantford. You know, what do we do to make this right? You know, it was said, or I heard a couple times, that we've known this for the last 5 years. That's incorrect. 5 years ago, the mold and the issues that are in front of us right now, that was not presented to us. I know this, but I was on the council. And I can assure you that if this issue was presented to us when Related came to us, as far as the tax abatement agreement, it would have been rectified by now. So I want to make that very clear. The second thing is I'm speaking from, a person, I'm a resident of Groton, a lifelong resident of Groton. I spent my early days in Bradford Manor before moving to Paquonic Bridge. So I do speak for the people, so I do take that personal as far as us not doing anything. I think we need to move forward. This is going to pass as far as, hopefully holding them into contempt. But I just want I'm speaking to the residents. Our best interest, or at least my interest my purpose was to serve you guys. So I don't want anybody to speak otherwise or to put that in your head that this council, that we're not for the people. That's just incorrect. And, being on the town side of things, there's plenty of things going on in the town as well. I grew up in Paquonic Bridge, and there are a lot of disparities over there as well that are not being handled. So to say that there's some things in the city that we're not doing what we need to do to hold all people and to look out for everybody is just inaccurate. I just want to put that out there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Sheffield?
Once again, thank you all for coming. This was, much needed for all you to express your concerns to us. And hopefully, again, like I said, to set up that Zoom for people who can't get here, because there's people who don't have the transportation to come here to see these meetings. So hopefully, down the line, we can establish that specifically that we're dealing with this issue right now with Bradford Manor. It's going to be more important to get additional feedback from the constituents of the neighborhood. As far as I lost my train of thought. The voting, again, like I said, I will. When we get there to that point, the people will have their say, and then, we'll take it from there. Hopefully, we can all live with whatever the decision ends up, that there won't be any bitterness, because we all are here for the city, regardless of when we vote. So I think hopefully, one way or the other, that we will come together as a community, to make sure that we do what's best for us, for all of us. And I think that's all.
Okay, thank you. I'll close out comments, citizens' petitions with this. I would like to clear up several things that have resulted from this issue with Bradford Manor. On May 6, 2022, I was invited by several residents of Bradford Manor to meet at the Rock to hear their complaints. While other elected officials were also invited, myself and the deputy mayor were the only ones who showed up. It was only after I started working with the residents to resolve basement access, mold issues, and material issues that other elected officials got involved. 1 week later, on May 13th, I met with related companies' representatives from New York, as well as our local management here in the municipal building, to directly address the issues. Since that meeting, many inspections have been performed by our building department as well as Leslite Health District, and some residents have been offered hotel rooms to stay in while units are remediated. As recently as this past Friday, I met with Town Manager John Burt, Leslite, the building department, Attorney R. Scott, who represents some of the residents, and related management to discuss the way ahead of this large construction project. To claim the city of Groton or myself as the mayor have not been diligent in following up on this issue is not supported by any facts. I would also like to address some disturbing things that were said at last week's town council meeting. First, Councilor Borderline admitted that she has blocked me on Facebook, saying, "I wonder why." The thing is, it doesn't matter why. As elected officials, we know that blocking constituents from a Facebook page used to communicate anything related to your elected position has been adjudicated and is a violation of the First Amendment. It is illegal. Next, Councilor Borderline misquoted a comment of mine saying, "If overreach means going to Brantford, I will overreach." That's something I never said, and clearly, She doesn't have an understanding of what is and what isn't government overreach. Overreach is a town councilor approaching a building inspector who they have no authority over and yelling at him in an attempt to intimidate him. Overreach is a town councilor showing up after an inspection has begun and berating the alleged light inspector, demanding they shut down an entire building, and again, with no authority to do so. Overreach is a town councilor going to the contracted workers of a private company who are just trying to do their job and yelling, "You're killing people." Overreach is a town councilor asking the town manager to hold the city of Groton in default as an agreement with no legal reason to do so. In addition to the fact that the town council has no authority to do that, why would a town councilor who lives and represents constituents in the city of Groton attempt to cause financial harm to the city? Later tonight, the council will vote on whether or not to consider related management in default of the tax incentive agreement. I have repeatedly asked the management company for a mold remediation plan, a schedule of events, and a general plan to move forward. This has not been provided so far, and as a result, I will recommend the council consider related in default in order to encourage action to protect the families in Bradford. And that concludes our comments. Moving on to approval of minutes, I'll accept a motion to approve the mayor and council minutes of October 3rd, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of the Committee of the Whole special meeting on October 11th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Communications and reports. Councilor Norris.
Nothing to report, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Sheffield.
Nothing to report.
Councilor Carter, do you have any communications or reports? Nothing to report. Aye. Deputy Mayor Depot.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have two quick things. One, I just want to remind, because we don't have another regular mayor and council meeting beforehand, the next food box distribution should be on October 28th, right? Fourth Friday?
That's correct.
On October 28th, 12:30 at St. John's Christian Church. And once again, if you cannot make it there, is it 12 to 2 or 12:30 to 2? I think it's 12:30 to 2.
12:30 to 2.
If you can't make it there, please contact myself or the mayor's office, and we will add you to the list for deliveries. I think I did 11 last month. I just throw them all in my truck and drive them around. And the last thing I want to say is that last week, instead of group meetings, we did a special committee of the whole regarding ARPA funding. And we are going to be having these meetings about ARPA funds periodically over the next several weeks. And I just want to encourage residents to watch those meetings. They are going to be also on the YouTube channel, Groton, what's it called? Groton Municipal Television, on the YouTube channel if you can't watch it in real time. But I am interested in input from residents of which of those projects, we have more projects than we have money for, and we'll be getting presentations department by department, and I just want to encourage residents to either send in comments or comment and give comments on which projects they think are higher priority, or which ones they think ARPA money shouldn't be spent on, because I think that'd be good to get as much information as possible. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do have the food drive that will be coming up. If you can't get to the food drive or would like some food and like it delivered, the number is 860-446-4103. Call us, we'll get the information, and we'll get food to you. Committee referrals. Are there any committee referrals?
No.
Okay. Moving on. New business. Councilor Norris.
R-22-10-117. Therefore, be it resolved, the mayor and council finds Branford Manor Preservation Limited Partnership in default of the agreement pursuant to paragraph B2G, B7A2, and any other relevant paragraphs of the agreement. This action is taken without prejudice to the city's ability to, in the future, to modify the reason and/or support for, or lack of reasons and/or support for any ongoing default through additions, modifications, or withdrawal of reasons and/or support for. To provide Bradford Manor Preservation Limited Partnership with a 30-day cure period beginning from the compliance date set forth by the city and/or Ledgely Health District, as those compliance dates may be amended from time to time. In the event of further notice of violations from the Rentals Housing Code and/or Public Health Code, the city mayor may amend, if necessary, the default reasons, support for, and cure period consistent with the agreement. To authorize the city mayor to execute any documents to notify Bradford Manor Preservation Limited Partnership of the council's decision to find it in default, to set the cure periods outlined above, and to state that the council retains its right upon review of the status of the default and the end of the cure periods, as those periods may be amended from time to time, to terminate the agreement effective at the end of that cure period in accordance with the terms of the agreement. I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I will open the floor for discussion. Councilor Sheffield.
Are there going to be different periods of renewal or renovation of any portion of the complex at all when we're talking about the 30-day period? Or is it going to be the whole thing, 30 days period to take care of everything in that period of time? Or are there going to be separate projects within the complex?
So it is based on the deficiencies that were identified by either Ledgely or by the building inspector. And then they have a time to complete those remedy. And then the 30-day default is if they do not meet it within that time, then the 30-day default then starts. If they're in the process of remedying the conditions and they request and are granted an extension, then they will continue that until the point that either one, it is completed, or two, that they are in default, and then the 30 days will start with each of the deficiencies.
Now, any extensions have to come before the council if they request?
Not necessarily, because right now it's with Ledgely and with the building inspector. John Bird and I will be keeping the council informed on what's going on.
I'm done for now. I'll think of something else.
Okay? Are there any other comments? Councilor Carter? Do you have a?
Nope.
Okay.
You answered it, man. You
Okay.
answered it.
Councilor Norris?
I think this is a step. I am concerned that we can effectively monitor the progress of whatever maintenance, repairs, and projects that happen over the next time periods. Obviously that's a operations issue, but it would be somewhat ease my mind that if we continue to get reports on the process and how it's moving forward. But I would also say, if it's permitted, that council from time to time be able to have some type of tour of the facility.
So John Burt, Steve Mansfield, and Joe Summers and I will meet hopefully later this week, and we will come up with how we're going to monitor and manage this. I know that Joe Summers has a database with all the deficiencies in them. So when they were identified, when they were completed, when they were extended, those kind of things. And my intention is to periodically, I haven't decided yet what the periodicity is. I'll talk to John about what he's looking to do with his council and probably mimic that. to keep our councils informed so that the councils know what's going on. And in the end, the buildings will be, so when Related says, we've completed this, we will probably not go check each and everything then, but before a unit is released, it will be 100% inspected. That is something that we're talking about doing.
Right.
Councilor Norris.
If I may, I don't know if this is the right time, but I'm bringing it up anyway, is, so currently we do have Groton City residents of Brantford Manor living in hotels elsewhere.
Are you asking me or telling me?
Well, let me get to that for a second. So if we do, and talking about meals, are we providing, or if folks call this number that was handed out, will we deliver to New London or other places where folks may be residing?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
So my understanding when Christine Santos said that she was still in a hotel, my understanding is that they have a block, let me define Related, Brantford Manor, has a block of apartments that are for moving people so that they pull them out, put them in there so they're not putting them in hotels.
Okay.
A lot of lessons learned from that. I do not know where that is. I do know that in some cases, when people did not get back into their apartments, it was because of either they did not want to go in or their attorney would not let them go in. One of the challenges we have now is that, first of all, there is no standard for mold. But in addition to that, when you test for mold, typically it is either visual or with a swipe. The attorney is doing airborne samples, so that is a different type of sample. When I've talked to HUD sent an email that I forwarded to this council from the EPA that said that airborne sampling is unreliable and is not recommended, and that there is no national or state standard, and that one of the things they should be looking at is humidity. So one of the things that they're doing is they go in with a humidity meter, much like Health Department does, and there's also humidity meters that you can put up against the wall, for example, testing sheetrock to see if there's moisture content in that sheetrock. And that is something that is being evaluated now.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Councilor Sheffield.
Has there been any thoughts of having dehumidifiers in the complexes?
So I've talked to Brantford Manor. One of the things that they're doing is they're going to put air conditioners in, and they are going to put in dehumidifiers. But the problem with that is until you identify and adjudicate the source of moisture. So if you go down there and look in the apartment or in the basements, and I've been in several, there are some visual cracks, so therefore you have water infiltration coming in that way. And if you go into Brantford Manor, you'll notice that it is stepped, so therefore the water terraces down, and the window encasements, they are level with the ground. In some cases, many cases, they're level with the ground, so they're not stopping water from going in that way. One of the recommendations that I made again on Friday was once they remediate the basements, they need to go in and seal the basements. They make a product, it's a paint type product, and they get it, there's in different colors, but my recommendation is go with a light color. You paint that on there, it seals the basement, and then if you start to get discoloration, then that lets you know if you have mold or anything else, and then you can look at that and you can clean it. They're evaluating that now. They have dismissed it in the past, but with the new individual that's there, he was more receptive to that. So we'll see where that all goes. They're also, I was talking to Joe Summers, building inspector, there's gonna be they've got landscaping equipment where they're gonna be leveling out and digging ditches and troughs and things like that. So for those of you that reside in Brantford, one of the things that I've asked the related company to do is one, to over communicate, and two, to pre-communicate. And what I mean by that is if you live in one of the apartments that has been identified, or if you have an attorney, you live in if you have an attorney, you live in an apartment that's been identified. You may be living in an apartment that's been identified for repairs, even if you don't have an attorney. One of the things that they're going to be doing is the PEX piping is a problem throughout the entire facility. So they're going to be replacing it. There were a couple times that the proper notice was not made. I found out about it. I went over there, talked to them, and I talked to the senior vice presidents and said, this is unacceptable. Their requirement, they said, was 24-hour notice. I don't care about what the requirement is. I care about what the right thing to do is. And so I've asked them to give you a 48-hour notice if they're going to be working on the piping. So they're going to be working on the piping in the units. In addition to that, later on, they'll be digging up the grounds to do piping across and connecting everything together. When water is turned off and then water is turned back on again, you get a hydraulic shock to the piping. And what that does is any sediment or minerals or things like that that have been on the piping is not going to be dislodged, and that's going to you're going to have discolored water. What you need to do is run that water until you get to clear water. Sometimes it takes 5 minutes, sometimes it takes 20, 30 minutes, but that's what you do for the water. The insulation and the crawl spaces that they're doing, they are in Tyvek suits. They're not hazmat suits. They're just a white suit. It is, when I talk to the workers, it is not necessarily for the protection as much as it is because it's dirty underneath the crawl spaces. So they're wearing that, and they're going to wear gloves. They'll probably have a dust mask on. They're going to do that. If they have to go through your apartment, what they agreed to do is that they would tent that area out. In the very beginning, they weren't doing that. I went over and I talked to them about it, and now they're looking at doing this bringing this on board. So they're gonna be doing that. I also found out Friday that there's some electrical issues in some of the apartments that had not been previously brought to our attention, but now that it's brought to our attention, it is on the list and it's something that's going to be evaluated. The dehumidifiers, they are going to get dehumidifiers to bring the humidity down. In the bathrooms, they're going to replace all of the fans. The fans were undersized. In addition to that, they're going to replace it with fans that remain on all the time. So even when you turn the light off, the fan is going to be running to remove moisture out of the bathrooms. And then when you turn the light on, the fan will go to a higher gear in order to get more air circulation and flow while you're in the bathroom and using the bathroom. When you take showers or hot baths, you get a lot of moisture that comes up. The recommendation is don't just close your door. If you can leave a door open to get ventilation so that the steam will go away, that will get your humidity down and minimize the chance for mold growth. So there are things that you can do as well to help yourself, but the majority of the remediation, actually all of the remediation, is on Branford Manor, and they are taking that on. So did that answer your question? Deputy Mayor Depot.
Quick question about what you just said. Are all of the units have utilities included in their rent already?
I do not know the answer to that.
Because if not, are they going to connect the fans to the tenant's electricity?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Can we ask them that? Can we just make sure? Because if they have to put fans in because their building is too moist, should it not be on their electric bill?
I'll ask.
I think the utilities are included from what I've heard in the past, but I'm not sure that that counts for all units, because I know not every unit in Branford is even the same. I know they have different rents and different contracts, so. And then the last thing I wanted to say, kind of piggyback on you mentioned the new complaints about electricity. And I just want to say, I know I had stated early on in this process that I wasn't in favor of default, because I wasn't in favor of default in June. But the thing that has gotten us, I think, to this point and gotten us to be able to be so influential with related management, and we have finally, been able to have more involvement from HUD, is the number of complaints that we've gotten. So I know that all of you are out in the audience here are probably already on the complaint list, but if you know anyone else that has issues in their unit and has not yet filed a complaint with the building inspector, those numbers are very powerful, because it lets us see it lets us kind of extrapolate that number and get an estimate of how many units could possibly need assistance. So if anyone has complaints and they still haven't voiced them, those numbers really matter. And I just want to add that the clerk de com does speak Spanish. So if you know anyone that has not spoken out yet because they don't speak English, please let them know that they can call the clerk's office, and he speaks Spanish and can help with anything they need in regards to city business, not just this.
So let me talk real quick about HUD. In the beginning, I reached out to HUD, and they were slow coming to the table, but we now have them at the table. I have their attention with the amount of deficiencies that we've identified, and they are evaluating what their next step is going to be in order to put pressure on related. Tomorrow, if the council approves this motion or resolution, I will send I will send HUD and Senator Blumenthal's office an email letting them know that both the town and the city have found the related company in default of the tax incentive agreement, and explain what that means. In addition, once town manager John Burt and I sign the letter, I will send a copy to HUD, further asking them for additional assistance in accountability so that related puts the resources to this project that is needed in order to provide safe housing for the moms and their kiddos. And that's all I have from HUD, about HUD right now. Is there any other discussion from the council? Councilor Norris.
Again, this is probably way out of turn and probably premature. But I wonder, moving forward, I don't know if there currently is a citizens board over at Brantford Manor. Maybe that's something we could help put together, and potentially have a council member or a city staff person be part of that body.
The residents of Brantford Manor are in the process of trying to organize a tenants association. There's a lot to it with bylaws and things like that. There are some hurdles that they have to overcome, but they are in the process of doing that. And that needs to be formed by the tenants. And so I have talked to them. I am in discussion periodically with the current leadership team. I have introduced the leadership team to Related and let them know that that they are the leadership team that I am recognizing, and that I am working with them from the resident side and working with Related from Related side. So as that moves forward, I will keep the council posted.
Thank you. I gladly offer my hand to
Sure.
help in that one also.
Any other comments from the council? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you, council, for coming out. Thank you, residents, for coming out.